I look like that girl from Finding Nemo. Wake up, fishy, wake up. Hello, thank you for stopping by. My name is Becky and this is BecxReadz, and today I am here to share with you my weekly reads. These are the few books that I read from, let's say, February 28th to March 2nd. The first book that I finished reading was this book. I think it's called Unicorn Magic. This is a book that I got for free during one of those Stuff Your Kindle days, and I had started reading it thinking it was going to be part of a themed reading vlog. However, I did not realize that this was 50 pages, if not shorter. And then all the other books that I attempted to read for that vlog were shit, so that vlog is never going to happen. This is about a girl who lives in Scotland. She must live in the future because they have like these things called sim cafes. And she goes to this sim cafe and she logs into a virtual reality game called Feyland, and she finds herself in Feyland. And she's supposed to find something. I guess it's supposed to be like she's playing a level in a game or whatnot, and she's supposed to find something, but she's not sure what it is. But turns out that this virtual reality Feyland is actually a real place. It's Feyland. And some of the characters from what she thinks is a game is spilling out into her real life. And that's pretty much it. That's it. It was fine. It was a read. It was quick. I liked the idea of it. It sort of gave like fantasy Ready Player One, but there wasn't enough to really constitute a plot. It was just fun. I just finished reading Opium and Absinthe by Lydia Kane. I listened to this on audio from Everand. This, I thought, was a historical fantasy. I honestly forgot what it was about. I didn't reread the synopsis before I started listening to it. But I thought it was a historical fantasy, and it's not. It's just a historical fiction. So in this, we are following this girl named Tilly, who is a very rich socialite in 1800s New York City. And she isn't like other girls. She is very curious. She wants to know how things work and stuff like that. But her grandmother and her mother just want her to look pretty and get married. But when her sister ends up being murdered and she is found drained of blood with what looks like vampire bites on her neck, Tilly becomes obsessed with trying to prove that vampires are real because she had just read Dracula and she thinks there's a connection. However, she has an accident while riding a horse. She breaks her arm and the doctors put her on opium as pain management. And she slowly becomes addicted to it. She's also slowly becoming addicted to absinthe, hence the title. So we're watching her as she's slowly sinking in to this addiction while also trying to convince people that vampires are real. So we're like, is she Delulu or is she actually onto something here? And meanwhile, because her doctors think she's hysteric because, God forbid, she speak or insist on something in the 1800s. They just keep giving her opium, so it's making her even worse and worse. And that's this story. Again, this was just fine. I liked the historic New York setting. I liked the mystery of who the killer was in the story. I thought I had it figured out, and that's what kept me listening to it, was to see if I was right, and I freaking wasn't. I didn't see that killer coming at all. And I liked the depiction of how drugs were viewed back in the day versus how they are now and how much people know about them. The characters themselves were fine. I didn't feel a strong connection to any of them really. I got bored about 40% into this book because it was just Tilly taking her drugs and then trying to convince people that vampires were real and stuff like that, and it just got a little boring to read. So I was vaguely paying attention, I upped the speed on the audiobook because I was just like, okay, let's get on with this. Let's progress to something else. Nobody in her family was an appealing person. Her mother, useless. Her grandmother, abusive. Like, her father has died. Nobody talks about him. Her sister has been murdered. Nobody cares. Like, horrible family. So this, it was a book. I read it. That's all I can really say about it. And the last book that I finished reading is the one that I want to vent about. And it is A Ballad of Sea and Sky, A Ballad of Sky and Sea, this book. This is about Marina, who is a very sheltered Selkie princess who has asthma. So her parents shelter her and coddle her because they don't want her to strain herself and get flare-ups of asthma. So they pretty much just expect her to be pretty and marry so that she can become queen, although they really don't do anything to encourage her to, like, better herself. They don't think she needs to learn how to defend herself because she is forced into, like, an arranged engagement with the captain of the guard, and he could protect her when she becomes queen. They don't really think she needs to know anything about their history or ask questions or anything, which is like, you expect her to be queen, but how good of a queen is she going to be if she's clueless? But anyway, she is curious about the sirens who are trying to take over their island, because at one point the Selkies and the sirens were at war with one another, and the Selkies forced the sirens out. But she's curious about them. She wants to be where the sirens are, watch them fly with those things. What are they called? Wings. On the day of her betrothal announcement or whatever, her intended groom, the captain of the guard, brings in a siren male who they captured, and they've beat him all to hell and whatnot. And she gets a little curious. She's a curious little catfish, this girl. So she sneaks down to the dungeon one night to, you know, just check him out, see what he's about. And it turns out that he's not just any siren. He is the Siren King Caspian. Sorry. He ends up compelling her with his siren voice and kidnapping her, and he is going to hold her captive until her father agrees to an alliance, sort of, to give the siren people back some of the land because his people aren't doing so well. They're kind of starving and they're not flourishing as they should. And thus a romance develops between these two. I went into this because I had read the synopsis and I saw Selkie, and I am somebody who loves Selkie stories, so that is what appealed me about this story. So I liked the idea of it. I liked the Selkie siren idea romance. I liked the water and air magic that these two have and how they're able to work that. I thought it was very cool. I liked the asthma rep in here because that's something you don't see a lot in fantasy romance, is main characters who have some sort of flaw, insecurity, disability that they have to work around in order to survive and flourish in this world. Usually their flaws, like they got scars or something like that. So I like it when the characters have some sort of insecurity, disability thing like that. Now, if the male characters could also sort of get some of that representation in there, that'd be great. But apparently fantasy romance just isn't willing to be that diverse and inclusive as of yet. The men still have to be perfect. And my favorite characters within the story were the Kelpies. I really liked this Kelpie. I think his name was Rannoch. I don't know. But he was sarcastic. He had a good personality. He was funny and feisty. He was intelligent. His motivations made sense. And the way he was depicted was very cool. I really liked the Kelpies in this story. More fantasies and fantasy romances need to feature some Kelpies because they're cool creatures. Now, let's talk about the things that I did not like about this book. First of all, it was pitched as enemies to lovers. This is not enemies to lovers, okay? Just because the sirens and the Selkies were at war with one another and these two don't know each other does not make them enemies, because she's curious about him and he treats her really fucking well. They are not enemies. Stop labeling shit just because characters don't know each other and they're from like two different groups that don't get along. It doesn't make them enemies, okay? This book, you cannot convince me that this book is not ACOTAR fan fiction, okay? You can't. There are so many similarities to ACOTAR. It's ridiculous. First of all, she falls for the bad guy who treats her well, gives her choices, encourages her to be the best that she can be. Reese, I know, right? Then they end up flying because they have to get out of a situation. His wings get hurt. She has to save him. And then they end up in a one-bed situation where they do exactly what Feyre and Reese did at the end. Exactly. Down to the positions and everything. Then we get the Kelpie, who you might as well just call the Suriel. He is a water horse Suriel. He tells her, that's your mate, be with your mate, save your mate, your mate. He just keeps saying, your mate, your mate, your mate. This Kelpie tells her like 9 fucking times, I'm not kidding. And she's like, don't say that, that's not true. We can't be mates. Stop saying that. Because she doesn't think that Selkies and Sirens can mate, despite the fact that this man has been singing her this fucking ballad throughout this book, which is where it gets its title, about how the sea and the sky were mates and how a Selkie prince and a Siren princess mated at one point. And she still is just like, it's impossible. It's like, girl, clue in. She calls him Seagull. I know, right? She is also supposedly 25 years old. No, this girl is so sheltered and so naive that she comes off as like 17, 18 max. The thing that irritated me the most about this, and I tried to overlook it, I tried so hard, is that this is Selkies, right? That's what intrigued me about the synopsis. This is not a Selkie. And I tried to tell myself, Becky, just let it go. Just go with it. It is just this author's interpretation of what a Selkie is. She's just reimagining it. Whatever, just let it go. I tried so hard. But I love Selkie stories. I know a lot about the Selkie lore. And I just could not get past it, okay? Selkies are seal folk. They are literal seals in the water, animal seals in water, okay? And then they come out of the water and shed their seal skin, much like a snake, and they become human. And then they have to hold on to that seal skin or hide it because that seal skin is unique to them. It is theirs. If their seal skin gets taken, then they almost become a slave to whoever owns that seal skin until they can get it back and return to the water. That is what a Selkie is. That's the Selkie lore. This girl, when she's in the water, she does not turn into a seal. She gets her lower half fins. She's a fucking mermaid. When she's on land and her people are on land, they don't have unique seal skins to them. They just use like real seal skins as like coats and blankets to keep warm. She even mentions it in the story that she goes out into the water in her mermaid form and she pets and hangs out with actual seals, and she's wondering if they know that her people use their skins. So they're not Selkies, they're mermaids who are killing seals and using actual seal skins for warmth. That's not a Selkie. I don't know if maybe this author just didn't know what a Selkie was, or if she just reimagined it and got creative with it and made a Selkie whatever the hell she wanted to make it. That's probably it, but it just did not work for me. But if you're somebody who doesn't know a lot about Selkie lore and you like don't really give a shit about Selkies, like I really like Selkie stories, then you would probably look at this situation and be like, oh, that's a cool interpretation of a Selkie. Which, okay, you would probably enjoy this a lot more than me. So those were the 2.5 books that I read this week. It was quite the lackluster week, but I was able to find a way to make all of these books fit prompts for Realmathon, so there's that. Let me know down in the comments, have you read any of these books and what your thoughts are, or let me know what you're currently reading. But if you don't want to comment that but would like to let me know that you made it to the end of this video, could you leave me a fish emoji? And with that, thank you so much for watching, and until my next video, happy reading. Bye.